Hello, what's going on guys, Ronaldo here. Welcome back to the tutorial number 11 of Android 30 card game programming with Java and Libgdx. So in the previous video we are applying a movement for our flare. So we can see that our flare will be moved from left to right. And we have also implemented a method to block from our flare to leave our game world. So we have a method right here. So what we did will be just to declare a local variable which will be the flare x that is indicated only is for the x coordinates, since we want only our flare to move in the x axis. So we are assigning the mat neutrals clamp, and Libgdx has also the clamp method to get the value of the current object. So the position, the minimum will be the width of our flare, but when we subtract, since we want the flare to move entire to our game worlds from left to right, so not uh, okay. So that is what we did, and we have a maximum value will be the width of our world, then we subtract it to our flare width, so it will not go beyond the uh, width of our game world. So that is what we did in the previous video. So now let me just run again so we can see nothing changes. So no changes, so let us try to test. So we can see that flare is moving left to right, so the same. So now what we need to do will be to add an enemy. So we need to create another class that will be represent as an enemy, and we will spawn it from right here. So in the y, or in the height of our game board, so from the y coordinate. So now let us just create another class, will be for example enemy. And so to make this video save a lot of time, I will just go with my backup code, so I don't need to write again. So I will just go with to the entity. So we go to the, so we have entities, and for example I will just get one of these, just open. So let's just create an enemy, and since as I've said, to save time, I will just copy and paste the code. So later on I will just upload the code if possible. So or okay, so let me just copy this one, the whole code. So and let us now create a new class. So new class will be enemy, for example. This will be our enemy, and package will be entities. So I will just click finish, but then we need to, instead of instead of ambulance, we will call it enemy, since we name our class enemy. So we need to change it to enemy. Size will be this, the enemy size. Okay, and we need to extend game object base. So we need to extend game object base, and since this class will use fallable, so because we need to pass it into array, and then we will assign the full class to just pull the this enemy class. So implement fullable. So fullable will be okay, so we need to check what is fullable. So it is an interface. So documentation or the definition will be here, so you can just go to the Java documentation so you can see. Since removes we have a full class, so we have a full object that can be reused to avoid allocation. So what it does will be it allow us to pull a specific type of class to reuse it again, and we can reuse it again, and this will prevent allocation to our memory. So we are using only one type of class. We pull the same type of class that we will be passing to our array. So and then we will pull it, and then we will remove it after we use. So we are just using one class, and we are pulling only one type of class. So you can see it later, so don't worry. So you can just import. We have intersector. The sector class is used to check whether two math or shape is colliding. So it is used for checking collision of two the same types of class. So in our case we are using circle, so we are intersector allow us to check two types of class or intersection. So we can just let me just change the name to enemy. Okay, now let us put it into our game screen. So we need to go back to our game screen, and we need to declare make an instance of this class, but we have it in our game controller. So we can just go here, and copy. So and we will just rename it later on. So we can just copy and paste it right here. But instead of ambulance, we will name it enemy, and let's name it ambulance for now. So we have enemy ambulance. I will just name it ambulance. Enemy so enemy, that is the type of our class, so that is the name of our class, so we cannot change it. So we have enemy, and we need an our array accept or allow us to pass value with class type. So we can just pass our enemy class to the parameter, or to the with this angle bracket. So let me just import array utils.class and pass our class with this enemy type. So our array can carry a class as value, so we can just pass it in the angle bracket. So we have enemy, we will remove. Then we have also a full class. So this full class allow us to pull a specific type that we pass into our array. So we can just pull a specific object that we pass in our array as parameters. So we can just pull the same type, will be the enemy, and we are assigning the pools to return the same type of object that we pass into our array. So we can just put put it here. So we can just assign the false class to return the class that we pass into our array, and integer will be how many of this object that we are going to pull, and we can just put one or however you like. So you can just assign or pass a number of how many numbers of that it should be full. So we can just assign it to our false class. So the next will be, what will be the next? We need to initialize our enemy. So we can just copy and rename. So instead of writing it again, so I can just put it here, but instead of we can rename it to enemy, since we name it enemy. So okay, so after initializing, we can just so when we initialize our enemy, so we initialize, but we don't have a logic for our enemy, so we can just check the update of our ambulance. So we have ambulance update. Now so we have the update method for our enemy, so we can see. Now let me just so we initialize our enemy, but we didn't render our enemy. Okay, so now to render our enemy, we can just call our enemy right here. Okay, so we can just call enemy dot render debug with renderer. Now if we try to run, we should see another circle above. So we can see that we have another circle in right here. So we have another circle. So now what we will do, we can just change the color of our circle. So we can just pass it here, or okay, columns. That's it, color. No color. Okay. So poly renderer. So if we will call renderer, that's set color. Where the set color will be color green. Okay. Then if we run it again, so let us try. See. Okay, we can see that we have another circle that is colored green. So that is for our enemy. Okay. Now, okay. So we need to have a logic. The position of our we will just change the position of our players or our enemy. So when we position our enemy and we subtract, so I will just change it. I will put it in the center, so we divide it to. Let me just run, so we can see that it moves a little bit from here to there. So from the middle, so from the middle of our game world. So now if I will, now let me just add a logic for our enemy, so we can see that our enemy will be moving down, so it will move down, so we can see. Now let me just copy, so we have update, and let me just copy and paste. So we have here, but okay, let me just copy, or let me just create first. So we need to create our enemy, but we don't have a timer, so we need to have a timer. So this is the method of creating array of enemies. So let me just copy this method, and we will just put it here below. So I think this video will be long, so we don't have a timer for our ambulance, and we need to create a timer, so we can just look or copy paste this one. So we have a timer, so we have a timer, so we need to create a timer. Let me just copy and paste here, just copy paste. So we have one error, and change this to enemy. Now we should call this method when we update our enemy. So we need to have update method. We need to call update ambulance. So we need to call update. So we need to have update method, and yes, we need to create again another method that will be called. So right here we will create a method which is private void update, and this is a method for to update the logic of our game object. So we will update it over delta time, so we need to pass delta, or we need to construct it with delta. Then instead of calling immediately, we can just put it here and call update over delta. Okay, now so we need to create a method update ambulance. We can just change it later. So we have update, and we can just copy this one. So we can just copy and create below. So when we create the enemy, so you can just paste, and instead of ambulance we can just rename to enemy. And since we don't have difficulty level, we can just remove or comment. We don't have enemy particles. We didn't declare a particle, so we just comment, and let us just comment. And so we have difficulty ambulance array. So okay, so and we need to uncomment, but instead of difficulty level, we need to set the value to our game config enemy speed enemy. So we need to have enemy. So don't have. We need to update enemy to, okay, so enemy, we can just put difficulty medium. The speed will be medium, so game config difficulty medium instead of using the difficulty or enum class. Since we don't have enum, we didn't create enum yet, so okay, so we don't have a vertical. So now if we need to create another method that will remove our enemy. So we need to create another method that will remove our enemy. So this will remove our enemy, and okay, so we need to, so if our enemy will go beyond the height of our world from the y-axis, so this method will be called, and this will remove our enemy. If it is go below or from the negative value, so our enemy will be removed. So let us now try to run. So but we need to call update into our method update, so we can just call it here, or we can just, so let me just call it right here. So now instead of, so we need to pass delta, and we already call the method update into our render. So now let me just run and see if our enemy is working, but our enemy is not moving. So what is the problem? Why is it our enemy is not moving? Well, when we create our enemy, so if we go to our enemy, we don't have a logic for our enemy. So if we go to our controller, game controller will be, so when we create our enemy, so let me just check why our enemy is not moving down. So when we create our enemy, okay, so with difficulty speed, check difficulty speed, difficulty level will be, get difficulty level, so the speed, but whenever we, let's try to check. So when we create our enemy, so okay, so when we create our enemy, to our enemy time, if we go to our game config, so we have enemy time, ambulance time, so we need to check to our game screen. So when we create our enemy, create ambulance, so when we create game config ambulance timer, and float will be maximum, position y will be the world height. Okay, so position y will be the world height, enemy ambulance 10 to set position our ambulance into 0. Okay, and we need to remove, then we need to reset our timer back to 0. Now if we try to run, so we cannot see that our enemy is not moving. So let me just move it down. So we have update enemy, and we need to below, so when we create our timer will be, so I think we'll fix it in the next video. So this will be the continuation. This video will be the continuation of the tutorial number 11, and since we faced some error from the previous tutorial, so and what I've noticed, the reason why the enemy is not falling down, or we cannot see that the logic of our enemy is applied, because I've just noticed that if we are using the same variable that we declare, so I've noticed that if we have the same variables, we have ambulance, and so if we are using the same variables, so if you are watching the previous video, the instance will be ambulance, but I changed it to enemy since we already declared the ambulance. So we have a variable ambulance above, then that is what I've noticed, so I changed it to enemy, and this should work now if we run our game. So if I so let us just test. So we can see that after checking the time, so after the time, so we can see here when we create our enemy, so we check that if our timer will be greater or equal to our ambulance times, which is in 2, and since we are adding delta to our timer, then we check that if our timer will be greater than or equal to 2, then only then we will respawn enemy. So after 2 seconds our enemy will be get respawn. So if we try to run, so we can see that if 2 seconds, then we can see that our enemy start to fall in the y-axis.